It's safe to say that bikepacking attracts a certain sort of character. I won't say bearded people with weird bikes, but that's exactly who they are. The reason for this is there seems to be some sort of innate suffering needed to go bikepacking. So Tom, myself and Seb Stott, who's too tall to fit on this sofa, we set out on a little holiday to prove that bikepacking could be fun.
We took our bikes down to Gran Canaria in the Canary Islands. It was February, we decided we needed some warmth, so that's where we went. We dumped our bike boxes at the airport and set off on what became an incredible adventure.
Yes, it was a gruelling ordeal, I'd say, over, was it 8 days in the end?
8 days, probably about 16 breakfasts.
Easily.
8 or 9 lunches.
Lunches that were easily sort of 3 to 4 courses long consistently.
Dinners were tough when we foraged in local tapas restaurants.
Yeah, those were pretty tricky, and at night we just had to make do with a simple bottle of wine as we packed out. So, as you can see, we didn't really go down the conventional route of eating dried food or sort of foraging for grubs or doing whatever proper bikepackers are supposed to do. We decided that we'd get in loads of rad riding. Obviously we'd carry all our stuff with us, but most of all we were going to have fun. It's still a holiday, it's just involved bikes and it involved occasionally sleeping outdoors.
The other nice thing about Gran Canaria is that in terms of distance everything is pretty manageable. It's roughly 50 kilometres in diameter. It's got a peak of just under 2,000 metres, so that's a nice thing to aim for. And it seemed pretty varied in its terrain. So the north, where it's a bit wetter, is kind of a bit more lush. And then further south it gets pretty darn dry, so rocky. And then down in Maspalomas you've got a big developed town with a massive beach and plenty of nice little restaurants.
Being a last minute holiday, we did absolutely no planning save for getting a hiking map off of Amazon. This one apparently was the best hiking map that there is for the Gran Canaria. However, when it came down to it was actually pretty useless. It was very large scale. Some of the paths that are on there didn't actually exist in reality. And the other thing is that Gran Canaria is so up and down and spiky that even within the sort of like, the 50-metre increments, you couldn't actually see.
Fortunately though, View Ranger, which is that free mapping app you can get for your iPhone and your Android, you can get open source cycle maps for Gran Canaria, which do have all the footpaths and trails on. So in terms of accommodation at the end of the day, camping and certainly wild camping on Gran Canaria is an illegal thing to do, and if you do get caught you may get fined about €100, so we definitely wouldn't ever recommend doing that, if you definitely don't find somewhere really secret to go and do it.
I should point out that if you do want to use the official campsites, you have to give them roughly 10 days notice and then sort of send them your itinerary, so that is very, very impractical. Instead, we used a mixture of campsites that we basically just rocked up to. We Airbnb'd, we booked normal hotels, we basically used every form of accommodation under the sun.
Very friendly hotels, some of them as well.
Very friendly.
Certainly Maspalomas.
Yes.
So in terms of getting our stuff all around Gran Canaria, well, we used a variety of methods to carry our luggage on our bikes. As you'll notice from the camera footage, we had bar bags, which definitely got in the way of the camera. John and Seb had saddlebags, which thankfully I avoided, so had full use of my dropper post. We had frame bags, which didn't really carry very much stuff. No. And we also had rucksacks, which hot and sweaty, a bit annoying, but to be honest, probably the most useful sort of way of carrying gear.
Well, that's true, apart from once you've put like 3 kilos of water in on top of your gear, and then you're on a quite uncomfortable saddle anyway, and then your bottom will know about it after the end of like, a 1,000-metre climb.
So once we'd sort of chilled out at the start of the trip, we decided to head up to the Pico de Nieves.
Pico de las Nieves.
That one, which is basically the highest point on Gran Canaria at roughly 2,000 metres. It's got a nice viewpoint. Did it take us a day or so, day and a half to get up there?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty chilled day and a half, and we kind of got up and down. I should point out that because it's a volcanic island, Gran Canaria basically looks like a classic volcano shape. It basically goes from sea level all the way up to 2,000 metres up the top. That meant that climbing was pretty hard going. Initial plans of doing like, oh, let's take this nice single track climb, threw that out of the window pretty fast. If you want to go uphill on a hefty laden bike, go up on the roads.
And then from there,
it was all downhill.
All time trails.
Yeah.
Even with our bikes covered in shit.
Yeah, once you kind of like get your head around the fact there's going to be all this stuff flapping about, and yes, your brakes do get very warm and your suspension doesn't really respond in the way you'd expect, you can get them down some bloody tech stuff, and some of the most epic and like varied riding that I've done in a single place for years and years.
And that was all in, effectively must have been a 30-40k descent from the top all the way down to Las Palomas. So, I mean, as I say, it had everything sort of in terms of surface, but also steepness, from dead steep, like nadgery, sort of tight corners, the sort of hoping the back wheel doesn't flick over the top, to, you know, like real nice traversey stuff where you had to pedal through it and just go full bore, you know, that there's literally everything. So it was, there's a place to go riding. There's not many operators on the island. I think Free Motion.
Free Motion, their own one.
They're
Big
the sort of
shout
biggest
out
one.
to them for sorting us out with some
Good
cardboard
guys.
bike boxes.
Real good guys. But there's not many other sort of tour operators out there, certainly not for mountain biking, but untapped potential, I think.
Yeah, I'd say take a look at a map, be prepared to do some pretty hardcore climbing, and you'll be bound to be in for like a pretty good trip. I'd say if we were to do this trip again, I would, first of all, if I was bike packing full stop, pack lighter. If you think you don't need it, you don't need it. If you think you do need it, do you really need it? Probably get rid of it.
And if you definitely need it, find the lightest
Find
one
a lighter one. That would be our advice. There were points on climbs when, especially me and Seb, we'd be going up things and I'd just be cursing the fact that I bought 2 sets of pants instead of just one, and wishing that I hadn't bought a cotton t-shirt, just because every last bit of weight just really hampers you.
After a week of cycling around Gran Canaria, we kind of all came to the conclusion that it's pretty cool and bike packing isn't actually that bad. It's just a great way to go and see a country. You know, you can see a wide variety of places in a relatively short amount of time.
If you're a bit sick of winter riding in the UK, as let's be fair, we all do get sometimes, it's got me fired right up for summer.